Hello, my friends, and welcome to today's math video. All right, today we're going to be working on our home connections book. So go ahead and grab your home connections book. Please make sure it says Bridges, Home Connections. Grab your pencil and come on back when you're ready. All right, if you're back with me, that tells me you have your home connections book and your pencil and you're ready to rock and roll. Today we are going to be working on telling time. So let's refresh our memories. When we're looking at an analog clock, remember an analog clock is the round clock with the numbers bolded, 1 through 12, so 1 through 12, and there's 5 marks in between each number that represents 5 minutes. So remember, whenever we're counting, we count by 5s if we're counting the big bold numbers, or we're counting by 1s if we're counting each line in between. Let's go ahead and warm up our brains practicing counting by 5. So remember, when our minute hand is pointed at the 12, we're at a brand new hour, which means we have to start from 0. So count with me. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. And remember, 60 minutes in an hour means when we get to 60, we start a new hour. So let's practice. I'm going to use 2 different color markers today. My black marker is going to be for our hour, and the blue marker is going to be for the minutes. Okay? So, how about I have my hour hand pointed here and my minute hand pointed here. Remember, my hour hand is usually shorter than my minute hand. So if my hour hand is in between 2 numbers, is it 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock? Right, remember, anytime our hour hand is in between 2 numbers, it always goes to the previous number. So in this case, it would be 1 o'clock for our hour, and our minute hand is pointing to the 6. So how many minutes am I going to write on our digital clock? Well, let's count. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You got it. So it is 1:30. Okay, let's try another one. How about if I have my minute hand, or I'm sorry, my hour hand pointed at this way and my minute hand pointed up to the 12. So remember, my hour hand is our shorter hand and my minute hand is my longer hand. What time is our analog clock showing us? So if my hour hand is pointing directly to the 8, it's going to be 8 o'clock. Or the 8's going to go in our hour spot, I should say. The minute hand is pointing to the 12, so how many minutes are going to go in our minute spot? 0, right? Because if the minute hand is pointing up to the 12, that means it is right at the beginning of the hour, so it is 8 o'clock. Say that with me, 8 o'clock. Good. Now let's talk about what if our clock is the digital clock, but we have to fill in our analog clock. Well, let's say the time is 4:30. Well, if we know 30 is our minute, so we need to draw our minutes hand with our blue marker. Let's count to 30. Ready? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So our minute hand is going to point to the 6. But is our hour hand going to point directly to the 4, or does it need to go in between the 4 and the 5? You're right, it goes in between the 4 and the 5. The only time our hour hand points directly at the number is when we're right at the beginning of the hour. As the minute hand moves forward on the clock, the hour hand slowly starts to tiptoe to the next number. So unless it is right at the top of the hour, our hour hand will go in between the two numbers. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, what if I have a digital clock that says 10 o'clock? Where am I going to draw my hour hand if it is 10 o'clock? I'm going to point it directly at the 10 because if it's o'clock, if it's 2 zeros, that means my minute hand is pointing directly up at the 12, which means it's the beginning of the hour. So my hour hand goes right to that 10. But remember, if our clock says, if our clock says 10:30, that means my minute hand is pointing down here at the 6, and that also means my hour hand is no longer pointing at the 10. It now has to point, sorry friends, wiping gets a little tricky. It now has to point in between the 10 and the 11 because it's not right at 10 o'clock. Our minute hand has slowly worked around the clock, which means our hour hand has to slowly move to the next hour. Okay? This should be review. We've done a lot of talking around clocks, but if you're stuck or if you're not quite sure that you understand, make sure you bring those questions to me. Let me know so we can chat about it. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to open up our Home Connections book. The first page we're working on is page 126. Give everybody a little time to open up your books to 126. All right, friends, if you need a little more time, just hit pause and come on back when you're ready. Here's what we're going to do today. We are working on Danny's school day. Here are some other times in Danny's school day. Draw lines to connect the clocks that tell the same time. So Danny's school starts at 8:30. Say that with me, 8:30. He has reading time at 9 o'clock. Say it with me, 9 o'clock. Writing time at 11 o'clock. PE at 1:30. Science time at 2:30. Finally, school ends at 3:30. That's a long day. That's a whole extra hour than what we normally do. Danny has a busy day. Here's what you're going to do, though, is you are going to find the digital clock and match it up with the analog clock. So the first clock shows the time that school starts, and that's at 8:30. So we need to find the analog clock whose hour hand, the shorter hand, is pointed near the 8. Well, it's pointed towards the 2 there. Oh, it's between the 8 and the 9, so that's possible. And look, the minute hand is pointing to the 6. Let's count and see how many minutes that minute hand is pointing to. Ready? Count with me. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So this is showing me 30 minutes. And that hour hand is between the 8 and the 9. So if it's between the 8 and the 9, is our hour 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock? You got it. It's 8 o'clock because the hour hand always goes back to the last number. So this clock shows 8:30, which is when Danny starts school. So we're going to draw a line from our digital clock that reads 8:30 to our analog clock that reads 8:30. Now what I want you to do is hit pause and go through and find all of the digital times and match them up with their analog times. Do your best, forget the rest. If you have questions or if you are still struggling to understand how to read the minutes hand and the hour hands, let me know. But I think y'all are getting the hang of it. That's why I'm giving you all of this freedom to show me your super awesome thinking. So hit pause, work on matching up all of your clocks, and come back when you're ready. All right, if you're back with me, that tells me you're all done with page 126. Now we're going to flip all the way to page 134. all the way to the back of the book. On page 134, we're going to do two different things. In section 5, we're going to read each of these clock faces and write the time on the digital clock. So you're going to find the hour and write it, and then you're going to find the minute and write it. I'm not going to help with any of these since there's only 4. I want to see if you're able to fill in your digital clocks after reading your analog clocks. Okay? If you need a reminder, head on back to page 126. This will help us remember exactly what our times should look like. Then, for section number 6, you're going to read each of these digital clocks and mark the time on the clock face. So what that means is you're going to look at the digital clocks. You're going to find that hour and draw the short hour hand. Then you're going to find the minutes and draw the longer minute hand to match. So your analog clock matches your digital clock. Same thing, we're not going to do anything together. I want to see if you're getting the hang of this. But if you're stuck, just head on back to page 126 to remind yourself how we can translate the digital clock into the analog clock. Okay? Hit pause, work on page 134, and come back when you're ready. All right, friends, if you're back with me, that tells me you're all done with page 134. That's it, just some telling time today. Thank you for practicing our clockwork together. Thank you for putting all that time and effort into these 2 pages. Head on over to Seesaw. You will see 2 activities. I went ahead and gave you an activity for page 126 and a separate one for 134, so you could send me 2 separate pictures, okay? If you have any questions, let me know. If you're stuck on something, bring it to tomorrow's meeting. I know we don't have a meeting today on Thursday, but bring it to Friday's meeting and we can definitely talk and answer any questions you might be having about telling time. Thanks for always working hard, my friends. I hope you all have an amazing day. I will see you later.